Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Al24 Midnight News coming to you live from the capital Algiers. And these are tonight's top stories. More than 185 killed and dozens of wounded in renewed Zionist bombing of Gaza Strip after the end of humanitarian truce. And hospitals in Strip receive waves of wounded as a result of the strikes. Hamas holds the occupation responsible for the renewed aggression. Al-Qassam brigades shelled Ashkelon and Sirdoit, and with missiles bombardments. Al-Quds brigades on the other side confirmed that they are engaged in first clashes with the occupation in the vicinity of Rantisi Hospital. The Palestinian presidency stresses the resumption of Zionist aggression against the Gaza Strip is an extension of ethnic cleansing and genocide. Iran stresses that insistence on ongoing the war means a new genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza. The martyrdom of 3 journalists in the renewed aggression raises the number to 73 journalists martyred since the beginning of the aggression. Hello again and welcome. Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza said that death toll of Zionist aggression in the last day has reached 185 casualties and 589 injuries. This Zionist aggression comes in the early hours after the occupation broke the week-long truce on Friday, resuming its war against defenseless people in Gaza. Medical reports says that majority of victims are children and women. And now, as we can see within the live broadcasting Gaza Strip, so far there are no airstrikes at this late hour. Now time there is almost 2 a.m. morning in Gaza Strip, and so far there is no bombings. Fortunately for the people of Gaza, this is kind of something good to take rest, and so far the results has been reached 178 casualties, and just an hour before another 7, which makes the result 185 casualties and multiple injuries. And from Gaza, we direct our news bulletin. I'm joined live by Mr. Osama Nazil, Palestine Broadcast International Manager from Jenin, Palestinian Territories. Mr. Osama, thank you so much for taking part with us in this late hour.
You're welcome.
Mr. Osama, after a week-long ceasefire, was it expected the truce termination at this particular stage? And did Hamas leaders anticipate that the occupation will not extend this pause?
Really, from the beginning, the Israeli occupation government was determined to bombard the Palestinian people, whether in the Gaza Strip or the West Bank, as part of its ethnic cleansing and genocidal policy against the Palestinians for the sake of the expansion of its colonial project at the expense of the Palestinians' land. Really, we were watching, like Palestinians, Palestinian journalists, and Palestinian citizens, all the meetings held in the Qatari capital and in other places in the world discussing the extension of the truce and the possibility of reaching a ceasefire. And we thought that the mediators, the Arab countries, and the people involved would press the Israeli war prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, to stop the aggression and the genocidal campaign against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. But this did not happen as Israel received the green light and the support from the American Secretary of State, Blinken, who was in the region just 2 days ago.
Quite interesting. I'm sorry to cut your train of thought, Mr. Osama. I will give you the floor to answer this question. What does it signify that the return of genocidal warfare in Gaza coincides with Blinken's visit and meeting with occupation leaders? Because, Mr. Osama, according to the resistance, Washington gave Netanyahu the green light to resume killing people. Therefore, can the bombings and raids on civilians that occurred today be attributed to, let me say, an American decision?
Yeah, sure, because we know that the Israeli government would not heed any decision by any government on this planet to stop its war on the Gaza Strip unless the United States administration orders it to do so, because we know that Israel is subject to the United States and we consider it as Palestinians as the 51st state of North America. But the fact that the White House and the American administration are happy with what's happening on the ground, and they feel that they are implementing their plan in the Middle East by allowing Israel to continue bombarding Gaza. That's why they don't ask the Israeli Prime Minister to stop this war. And we already report in the Wall Street Journal just hours ago how the United States provided all types of bombs and weapons to Israel to continue its mission of bombarding Gaza, mainly the bombs called the bunker buster bombs, which are used only for open areas, empty areas, in order to penetrate the concrete and the mountains. Such bombs are given by the United States administration to Israel to bombard the most crowded, most populated area on this planet. Gaza Strip, we know 360 square kilometers for 2.3 million people, and the United States gives Israel the green light and the support to use the bunker buster bombs. So this is really unimaginable, and we don't know what guilt the children and the women of Gaza made and what policy or what act have they taken that harms the United States and leads the United States President and his State Secretary to give Israel such support and such a green light to continue their genocidal mission against the impoverished, besieged Gaza Strip.
Mr. Osama Nazil, thank you ever so much for taking part with us. I would love to stay with you, but we do have a limited time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now to keep on our news bulletin, private hospitals in southern Gaza witnessed a surge in wounded individuals on Friday following the resumption of the Zionist occupation's aggression, employing warplanes to bomb various areas in the Strip. Dr. Ashraf Al-Qudra, spokesperson for Ministry of Health in Gaza, reported 35 Palestinian casualties since the truce ended on Friday morning. Also, Al-Qudra highlighted that many victims remain trapped under the rubble of destroyed homes.
With the end of the truce and the resumption of Zionist occupation, new rounds of massacres in Gaza Strip, where Zionists committed a number of massacres since this morning, killing 35 and wounding tens of people, that the civil defense forces and ambulances were able to pull out from under the rubble. A large number of victims are still under the rubble of houses that were destroyed on its residents.
A senior Hamas spokesperson on Friday said that both occupation and United States are to blame for the termination of the ceasefire in Gaza. Osama Hamdan said that the Zionist entity had refused proposals to put forward by the Palestinian resistance group and that the occupation authority had tried to push proposals that fell outside of the current framework of negotiations.
We blame the failure on two sides. the Israeli and American sides. It was clear yesterday that the Israeli side wants to go back to fighting as several IDs were put forward by mediators, and we accepted 3 of them, and despite that the Israeli side said no, no, no every time.
Rejecting all offers of extension and rushing for the end of the humanitarian truce, the occupation army resumed its bloody campaign on Gaza Strip, and artillery bombardment since 7 a.m. local time, a move that confirmed to the world the criminal intentions of the occupation forces. More in this report.
Immediately after the week-long truce in Gaza has come to its end, black smoke billowed from the besieged Gaza. The Zionist forces started again their aggression on civilians, and the same scenes of cries were brought back to the scene. On Friday morning, the sound of heavy gunfire could be heard in areas across the Strip.
It is just a house where civilians who people fled to from another area are staying in. They are all young and children.
Khan Yunis and Rafah in the northern Gaza, where hundreds of thousands of Gazans have been sheltering from fighting, witnessed the most intensive bombing. This clearly shows that there is nowhere to hide from the Zionist aggression. For those displaced Gazan people living in tents in Khan Yunis, fear has returned.
The days of truce, God protect us. We slept, we rested, there was no drone, and we were living well. But with what happened today, we've been living in fear and anxiety. Really, fear has returned. The sadness has returned. With every explosion we spring up. Is it in front of us, behind us? The explosion, we're living in terror. If anyone has any way, help us. We're dying of starvation.
Health authorities reported dozens of Palestinians killed. In only one day, the occupation attacks left over 170 Palestinians casualties. Ambulances rushed to hospitals, already overwhelmed with patients. The UN describes the situation in Gaza as catastrophic.
The resumption of hostilities in Gaza is catastrophic. We urge all parties and states with influence over them to redouble efforts immediately to ensure a ceasefire on humanitarian and human rights grounds.
The resumption of the war threatens to compound the suffering of people in Gaza, especially that the occupation insists on a no let-up in the pace of fighting after the ceasefire.
On the other side of resistance, Al-Qassam Brigade's Hamas armed wing announced it bombed the cities of Ashkelon, Sidroit and Beersheba with rocket barrage in response to the targeting of civilians in Gaza Strip. In a statement on Friday afternoon, Hamas armed wing added that it destroyed occupation forces groupings northwest of Gaza City with bursts of 140 mm Rajum missile system and heavy caliber mortar shells. Also, Al-Quds Brigade, the military wing of the Islamic Jihad movement, confirmed engaging in intense clashes with the Zionist occupation soldiers. According to a statement on Telegram, violent confrontation occurred near Arantishi Hospital in Gaza City and Nasr neighborhood between the resistance factions and occupation army forces, resulting in casualties among occupation's ranks. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed a deep regret on Friday after the resumption of military operations in Gaza. In a post on the X platform, Guterres revealed his hope for a return to the truce, stressing that the return to hostilities only shows how important to have true humanitarian ceasefire. The Palestinian presidency said on Friday that the resumption of aggression against the Palestinian people in Gaza Strip and escalating the crimes by the occupation forces and terrorist settlers in the West Bank is a continuation of the crime of ethnic cleansing and genocide, an attempt to liquidate the Palestinian cause. Official spokesperson for the Palestinian presidency, Nabil Abu Rudaina, stated that the majority of countries in the world reject the crimes of genocide and collective punishment against Palestinians, adding that return to mass destruction, aggression, and U.S. double standards will not bring security and peace to anyone. The government media office in Gaza confirmed the number of journalist martyrs has risen to 73. The office indicated in a press statement that this came after the announcement of the martyrdom of photo journalist Muntasir Al-Sawab from Andalu Agency. In support of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian resistance in Gaza, the Islamic resistance in Lebanon, Hezbollah, announced that it had executed 5 operations against Israeli military cities or other sites in occupied northern territories in support of the steadfast Palestinian people in Gaza Strip and in support of their resistance. The Islamic resistance added that it targeted with appropriate weapons occupation soldiers in the vicinity of Jal al-Alam site and the vicinity of Al-Marj site, as well as the Ramim barracks of occupation army, confirming that it achieved direct hits. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa condemned what he called the cruel tragedy that is underway in Gaza, labeling it war crime against the innocent people of Palestine and demanding it ends immediately during his address at COP20 summit.
South Africa is appalled at the cruel tragedy that is underway in Gaza. The war against the innocent people of Palestine is a war crime that must be ended now.
Now, in a different matter, Algeria is stepping up efforts to fully exploit the Garage Bilat iron mine by putting in place a number of measures, such as laying the foundation stone for the project of primary processing plant for iron ore extracted from the mine, with a strategic vision aimed at enabling Algeria's production of iron in regional and international markets. More in this report.
Algeria is redoubling efforts and increasing the pace in order to start exploiting as soon as possible one of the biggest iron ore resources of the world. The foundation stone for the completion of the primary processing plant of the Garage Bilat has been laid. This mine's reserves are estimated at about 3.5 billion tons of iron ore.
هذا أعتقد أنه يوم تاريخي هذا بالنسبة للجزائر. دخلنا في المشروع الحقيقي. هذه الانطلاقة إن شاء الله الوتيرة تمشي بأكثر سرعة.
This strategic project will enable mining 2 to 3 million tons of iron ore annually in the first phase, to reach a total exploitation phase of 40 to 50 million tons per year, following the completion of the railway line project that will link the mine to Bashar province at a distance of 950 kilometers.
نظن بشرى بالنسبة لسكان المنطقة مناصب شغل وبالنسبة للجزائر أعتقد أن المناجم تاعنا تعبت منجم تاع الحالي تاع الونزا سبحت لا تونر تاعو ترفع. كل حال احنا صناعة الحديد والصلب والمستخرجات تاعها تفتح آفاق كبيرة بالنسبة للجزائر.
After the completion of amenities related to the Garaj Bilet mine and creating a mining city around it in response to the growing demand for the Algerian iron production, Algeria aspires to rank among the world's top exporters of iron.
European Coordination of Solidarity with the Sahrawi People launched its 47th conference in Toledo, Spain, providing a renewed platform to discuss strategies for ending the Western Sahara occupation. While some focus on urging Spain to align with international legitimacy, others emphasize the necessity of reverting to its historical stance on Western Sahara issue.
Messages dispatched by the Polisario Front from Toledo during the Ukoko Symposium call on European capitals to promptly acknowledge their responsibilities. The Polisario Front condemns Moroccan occupation transgression against the Sahrawis, advocating for a direct referendum enabling the Sahrawi people to determine their destiny.
The only solution mutually agreed upon by Moroccans and Sahrawis in the United Nations is the organization of a referendum, nothing else. We will persist in our fight and struggle until we enforce the commitment made by the Sahrawi people and the Moroccan government, which is the conduct of a referendum in Western Sahara. Anything beyond is deemed unacceptable. Over 50 years of persistent struggle attest to the unwavering pursuit of granting the Sahrawi people their rightful self-determination.
This Ukoko session gained momentum due to the notable shift in the Sahrawi issue following the resurgence of armed struggle and increased international support for the Sahrawi Arab Republic. Participants view this as an opportunity to prompt Sanchez to adhere to international legitimacy and realign Spain with its historical position on Western Sahara.
Je pense que notre conférence devra acter ce moment.
I believe our conference should address this situation to explore how we can express the end of the colonization by condemning Spain's position as a colonial power, standing alongside the colonizer through delegation. Today, we need to compel Spanish government and Sanchez, who stated that Palestinians have the right to establish a state, to say the same for the Sahrawis. This is the aim of this conference.
Over the two-day symposium, workshops will cover strengthening the Sahrawi state, human rights issues, media and politics, and legal strategies against the plundering of Sahrawi natural resources by the Moroccan occupation.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Friday that he had seen a complete degradation of everything that has been created at the OSCE after attending the latest summit in Skopje. Lavrov claimed Moscow can see a degradation of everything that has been created through all three security dimensions: political and military, economic, and environmental and human. At the COP28 international climate talks in Dubai on Friday, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres emphasized the urgent need for action, declaring that Earth's vital signs are failing. Guterres, a vocal critic of oil, gas, and coal industry contributing to climate change, delivered his strongest critique yet against these sectors, including the host country, United Arab Emirates. Today, the second edition of the Algeria Trail was concluded in a joyful atmosphere after the marathon lasted for more than 3 days. The participants in the edition took a tour of the most important areas that highlights the landmarks of the state of Timimoun. Today was also the day of awarding the prizes to all winners in various categories. The ceremony was held in a special atmosphere after its success.
That was my first participation in the Algeria Trail, and I split my victory with Corentin. It was very, very difficult, especially in the night, because the night was cold the first time, was dark, of course, and it was difficult to see the correct path in the dunes. Yeah.
This is my second time in the Algeria second edition, and I shared my victory of the 106 kilometers race with Sébastien. Just like Sébastien, I think the main dread I had, and it was the the main dread I had at the first time was to try to navigate the dunes all alone in the dark, and that was exactly what happened, but we managed in the end. And in the very end, at the last checkpoint from the end, Sebastian and I, we arrived, well, very close together.
To this point, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Take care of yourself and good night.